Welcome back to Fix and Cruise. We've all been there. You're pulling onto the highway, you mash the pedal to merge, and nothing. Just a sad groan from the engine and a speedometer that refuses to budge. It's frustrating, it's dangerous, and frankly, it makes you feel like your car is giving up on you. Today, we're diving into the 12 most common culprits behind sluggish acceleration. From simple $20 air filters to complex electronic control modules, the path to regaining your car's get up and go isn't always a straight line. Before we roll the footage, here's the brief. Acceleration is a delicate dance between air, fuel, and spark. If any one of those is out of sync, or if the mechanical components can't translate that power to the wheels, you're stuck in the slow lane. Let's look at the breakdown. And after that, I will be back to give you my critical take and analysis. Watch this.
Are you struggling to accelerate when pressing on the gas pedal? This issue can be very frustrating, and unfortunately, there can be several things that can cause this. I'll try to break it down for you in the easiest way possible, so hopefully, after watching this video, you'll be able to find the root cause of why your vehicle is struggling to accelerate. To start, I recommend using an OBD2 scanner to retrieve any codes. If you do get a code, that's your starting point. However, if no codes are showing after you scan your vehicle, you'll have to test and use the process of elimination to see what's causing your issue. The first and easiest thing to identify is to check your air filter. If you notice a lot of debris and dust in the filter, it can restrict the air from getting into the engine. This could cause your vehicle to have sluggish acceleration. Now, replacing the air filter is very easy. If you want to learn how to replace your air filter, I'll leave a link to the video in the description below. The second thing to consider is your vehicle's fuel system. If there's a fuel delivery issue, it could mess up the air-fuel ratio and potentially cause either a lean or rich condition depending on the part that went bad. Here's a list of parts from the easiest to hardest to diagnose. Let's move on to the ignition system. Anything that disrupts spark can lead to slow acceleration in your vehicle. The spark is what ignites the air-fuel mixture, creating a small explosion that pushes the piston down and generates power. If there's no spark, it will lead to a misfire. This typically turns on the engine light and sets a diagnostic code. On the screen, you see a list of things that can contribute to a lack of spark. The next system to consider when dealing with acceleration issues is the exhaust system. If your vehicle has a clogged catalytic converter or muffler, it can create a blockage in the exhaust system. This blockage prevents exhaust gases from exiting the engine efficiently, leading to increased back pressure and reduced engine performance. The next thing on our list is sensor functionality. Here's a list of the most common sensors that can cause sluggish acceleration in your car. If these sensors are faulty, they can send incorrect data to the ECM, leading to poor acceleration. Damaged sensor wires or connectors can also contribute to this problem. Now typically, if the sensors go bad, the ECM will throw an engine code, so it will be easier to narrow down the problem. However, if you suspect one of these sensors is faulty and there's no engine light turned on, you can try using live data on your OBD2 scanner. Seeing the sensors work in real time can help you identify which one is faulty. You can check out my OBD2 guide video in the description below where I show how to access live data. The sixth thing on the list that can cause poor acceleration is the throttle body. The throttle body controls the amount of air entering the engine. If the motor that's responsible for rotating the plate is starting to go bad, it will result in a slower response rate when you press down on the gas pedal. In other situations, it could be dirt causing the throttle plate to get stuck. It's recommended that you clean your throttle body every 60 to 80,000 miles. Let's move on to the compression issues. Worn piston rings, damaged cylinder walls, leaking valves, a torn head gasket, or a slipped timing belt can all lead to decreased engine compression and efficiency, which causes poor acceleration. These components are all vital for the engine's proper operation. The next thing on the list are bad valves. A stuck-open EGR valve will continuously add exhaust gases back into the combustion chamber. These gases will take up space, limiting the amount of air that enters for optimal engine performance. Also, if the purge valve is stuck open, it's going to disrupt the air-fuel mixture, creating more fuel than air in the combustion process. That's exactly why you may notice your car feeling more sluggish than usual. The next thing to consider is a vacuum leak. Here's a list of things where the vacuum leak can occur. If your car is experiencing a vacuum leak, it can cause unmetered air to enter the engine. This will cause a lean condition, which will mess up your engine's performance, leading to hesitation when pressing down on the gas pedal. Another thing that can cause acceleration issues is a faulty turbocharger. The turbocharger is responsible for bringing more air into the engine to mix with more fuel to create more power. If it fails, it won't be able to bring in more air, therefore the ECM won't be able to command more fuel. This will cause a lack of power or sluggish acceleration. The next possibility is transmission issues. If the transmission is not working properly, it can cause problems with acceleration. This often happens due to a slip in transmission. Transmission slip is when the transmission fails to transfer power from the engine to the wheels, which can cause your vehicle to lose acceleration. This can be caused by internal wear, or in other situations, you can just be low on transmission fluid. Lastly, your engine control module could be faulty, causing your vehicle to accelerate poorly, but this should always be the last option. I know this list is long and can be very frustrating, so if I were you, I would test the easiest things first and use the process of elimination. Now if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
Alright, let's talk through what we just saw. If you're a regular here on Fix and Cruise, you know I'm a fan of the common sense first approach. The video started exactly where I would, the air filter. Think of your engine like an Olympic sprinter. If you try to run a 100-meter dash while breathing through a thick wool sock, you're going to collapse. That's essentially what a clogged air filter does. It starves the engine of oxygen, making the combustion process weak and inefficient. But then we move into the fuel system, and this is where things get interesting. We're talking about fuel pumps, filters, and injectors. If your fuel pump is weak, it's like trying to water a garden with a kinked hose. Under low load, the car might feel fine, but the moment you ask for power, demanding more pressure, the system just can't deliver. The ignition system section hit on something vital: the misfire. When a spark plug or coil pack fails, you aren't just losing power, you're fighting against yourself. One dead cylinder means the other, 3 or 5, have to work twice as hard just to keep the engine spinning. One of the more overlooked points in the video was the exhaust system. Most people don't think about the back end of the car when they think about speed, but a clogged catalytic converter is like a cork in a bottle. If the spent gases can't get out, new air and fuel can't get in. It's a literal bottleneck for performance. We also saw a heavy emphasis on sensors. In modern cars, the ECU is the brain, but sensors like the MAF, mass airflow, and O2 sensors are the eyes and ears. If the MAF sensor is dirty, it might tell the brain that only a little bit of air is coming in, even when you've got the throttle wide open. The brain then only sends a tiny bit of fuel, and you're left wondering why you're moving at a snail's pace. And let's not forget the throttle body and vacuum leaks. A vacuum leak is essentially unmetered air. Air the computer didn't see coming. It leans out the mixture, causing that heart-sinking hesitation right when you need power the most. Finally, the video touched on the heavy hitters: transmission and compression. If your transmission is slipping, your engine might be screaming at 5,000 revolutions per minute, but that power is just turning into heat in the gearbox instead of motion at the wheels. And compression? Well, that's the health of the engine itself. If the squeeze is gone, the power is gone. It's a lot to take in, but the key is that process of elimination the narrator mentioned. Don't go buying a new turbocharger until you've checked your air filter. Now, I want to give you my critical take on this, because while the video provides an excellent checklist, it doesn't quite capture the why behind the frustration. In the world of modern automotive repair, we are seeing a massive shift toward what I call the parts cannon. People see a symptom, sluggish acceleration, and they start firing parts at the car. They buy new plugs, then a new pump, then a sensor, and before they know it, they've spent $800 and the car still won't merge. The real issue here isn't just a list of 12 parts, it's the lack of diagnostic discipline. We live in an era where the car is often smarter than the mechanic. When a car struggles to accelerate, it's often in limp mode. This is a software-forced restriction designed to save the engine from a catastrophic failure. If your car senses a lean condition or a turbo overboost, It will intentionally kill your power to prevent you from melting a piston. The sluggishness is actually a safety feature. I also want to challenge the idea that these 12 reasons are created equal. In my experience here at Fix and Cruise, 80% of acceleration issues come down to just 3 things: a dirty MAF sensor, a vacuum leak, or a failing ignition coil. Yet, we often jump to the scary stuff, like a blown head gasket or a ruined transmission. We need to stop treating our cars like mysterious black boxes and start treating them like logical systems. There is also an economic reality to this that I think we need to address. Ignoring a $50 sensor or a $20 air filter for 6 months doesn't just make the car slow, it ruins your catalytic converter. That rich or lean condition sends unburnt fuel into the exhaust, where it literally melts the precious metals inside your cat. Suddenly, your cheap problem has become a $1,500 exhaust overhaul. Poor acceleration is the car's way of crying for help before the bill gets astronomical. Furthermore, we need to talk about the digital side of this. Sometimes the hardware is perfectly fine, but the software, the ECM mentioned at the end of the video, has developed a glitch or needs a reflash. We are seeing more drive-by-wire issues than ever before. Your gas pedal isn't even connected to a cable anymore. It's just a sensor talking to a computer. If that communication has a millisecond of lag, the car feels like a boat. My final takeaway is this: do not skip the diagnostic step. Use the live data on that OBD2 scanner. Don't just look for codes. Look at the fuel trims. If your long-term fuel trim is at plus 25%, you have a vacuum leak or a fuel delivery issue. The numbers don't lie, whereas a feeling in the pedal can be deceptive. We have to be more than part changers. We have to be investigators. Part 5. Conclusion and wrap-up. So, the next time your car feels like it's dragging an anchor, don't panic. Take a breath, grab your scanner, and work your way through that list of 12, starting with the easiest stuff first. Acceleration is the soul of the driving experience. When it's gone, the car just feels like a chore. But with a little bit of logic and the right tools, you can bring that spark back to life. If this deep dive helped you narrow down why your ride is feeling sluggish, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to Fix and Cruise. We're here to help you stay out of the shop and on the road. Drop a comment below if you've ever had a weird reason for your car losing power. I'd love to hear your horror stories. Until next time, keep fixing, keep driving, and we'll see you on the next one. Cruise on.